This overview includes the process of setting up the steps of a change plan and how to improve the likelihood of success. The first step in behavior change is to really consider what shapes your view of yourself. What do you like about yourself? What kind of thoughts and feelings do you have? Recognizing that these really affect your body, your wellness, your well-being, and especially your feelings about yourself. Self-esteem is the opinion that we hold of ourselves regarding our worth or value, and it takes action to recognize and embrace your inherent worth. When you have a contingent worth, that means that your individual value must be earned, and it's dependent or contingent on a person or a thing. When we have self-acceptance self-esteem, that means that we believe that we have that worth. We don't have to earn it. We have intrinsic motivation. We recognize that we have value because of being a human being. Achievement self-esteem is when you feel good about yourself as a result of success, money, appearance, and unless you have those things, you don't feel like you have any value. This is where extrinsic motivation is like external motivation. What's going to encourage me to make a change is prompted by something outside of ourselves. Thinking we achieve or earn our worth or value establishes a worldview that would condone prejudices such as racism or sexism, because the possibility of superiority or inferiority is built into that outlook. Making your value or worth and your behavior one and the same can be very self-defeating and detrimental to both your mind and your body. When you realize that you are of great worth, that is the first step in moving from intention to action in a healthy way. Reflection on the meaning and purpose of your life gives context for behavior change. The more you can realistically break down what is going to help you reach your goal, the more effective your efforts will be. So we're going to look at a couple models of behavior change. The trans-theoretical model of behavior change was specifically designed to promote behavior change. There are really 5 constructs: the stage of change, process of change, decisional balance, self-efficacy, and temptation. The stage of change involves a readiness. Is a person ready? How is a person ready? A person may not be ready at all, and that would be the pre-contemplation phase. A person might not even be considering any change. A contemplation is when you're thinking about it, and within the next 6 months. And many times students will say, well, after I graduate, I will. That's kind of a contemplation level. Preparation is when you intend to make that change within the next month. Action is when you're actively making those changes. And maintenance when you have been doing that behavior for 6 months. And the arrows on the side indicate that it's not always clean and easy. We sometimes get into situations where we might be in an action phase and we're doing great, but something comes up and we have to go back into preparation or make some adjustments or maybe contemplation. Things always ebb and flow, and it's completely normal to have ups and downs. The concept of processes of change are steps that can be taken, and there are commonly 10 that are identified that help people through the individual stages. So for instance, if you're looking at pre-contemplation and contemplation, where I'm not ready at all in the next 6 months, or I'm ready within the next 6 months. you might consider looking at learning more about that behavior, thinking about dramatic relief, what are the consequences of this behavior, looking for research and support. What's my environment? Those processes are going to be especially helpful early on in the process of change. And when you're in the action phase, that's when support, healthy relationships, or helping relationships, and having alternate actions to take when you reach a barrier or counter conditioning can come into play. Behavior change is really a process, right? It's not an event, and it has components to it. So the next construct is the decisional balance and self-efficacy and temptation. So or the next constructs, I should say, constructs. Decisional balance means that we look at the cost-benefit ratio or the advantages and disadvantages of changing. We look at valuing our own life, healthy life, as much as making a paycheck. Self-efficacy has to do with self-confidence, and as you get more success, that confidence becomes greater over time. And recognizing that temptations will happen, there will be times when you might have the urge or the temptation to engage in that unhealthy behavior, but recognizing that the longer you don't do that behavior, the temptations decrease. The self-determination theory of change is another theory, and this has 3 needs or psychological needs that people across culture support and for wellness, and that is autonomy, competence, and relatedness. These 3 needs developed in supportive environments enhance the acquisition of long-term healthy behaviors. So knowing that you have autonomy, that you are in charge, having the confidence that you can do it, and knowing that you have support or you can share your process with someone that you trust. That is the self-determination theory of change. The first line of support required for us to make healthy choices and to establish a healthy lifestyle is from ourselves. And then we need support. We also know, based upon literature, much research, it confirms that significant people, such as friends and family, in our lives, if they encourage us to make our own choices, it is much more effective than if they try to manipulate or control our behavior. We also know that when we help others, it adds to your own health and happiness. So it's a win-win. So getting support from someone else is beneficial, but the person who is supporting you also benefits. When you're ready to change something in your life, it's important to be aware of the barriers that might stand in your way. One of the greatest barriers is the belief that change is not possible. And there are a number of barriers that we can identify. Common forms of determinism that affects one's behavior includes economic, cultural, and genetic determination. If we believe that these factors make it difficult to change, and they can make it harder to change, it doesn't mean that they can't be overcome. Our behaviors can be our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions. Our barriers can be physical, it can be economic, and it can be logistical. And we'll look at those a little bit more, but it could be I don't have money, that's logistical. I don't have access, that's logistical. Or economic is I don't have any money. Physical might be might have a barrier. Maybe I'm injured right now and I'm on crutches. Emotional could be how you feel about yourself. When we have negative emotions about ourselves, it does make it difficult to make changes. So recognizing that that's a potential barrier and to work to improve or have a counter viewpoint is a step that can be taken. We know that researchers that have looked at brain research have identified that making immediate or short-term and long-term decisions activates different parts of the brain. Short-term decisions are going to be associated with emotions. So we often make short-term decisions based upon, I really want that cookie right now, or I really want fill in the blank. That's a short-term decision, and it's often really associated with the emotions of that emotional side of the brain. The challenge that we need to face is that those emotions can be really strong, and when you choose a healthy behavior, that it's going to take probably foregoing or bypassing that immediate pleasure to be able to stick with that long-term plan. So recognizing that this is an emotional thing is important, can be helpful with making that decision. Barriers come in many different flavors. It could be how you feel about yourself, again, your environmental behaviors, what's around you. I think who you spend your time with in terms of support, whether they support or whether they are unsupportive, how you feel about that behavior, your willingness, your readiness, whether you have knowledge. A person can have fear of change, of the what ifs, or maybe even you've been unsuccessful in trying to make that change before. That can be a barrier. So when you make your plan for changing that behavior, instead of just saying, I'm going to start, when you make a plan, it helps you to follow the recipe. It helps you to identify what you're going to do so you don't need to make that decision, that immediate decision, and follow those emotions as you go. A plan makes it easier for consistency, and you can start slowly and make incremental progress towards your goal over time. It's easier to track your progress if you have a plan, And if you experience a setback, a plan can help you to get back on track. So the plan is going to be really important. The plan involves assessing yourself, setting some short-term goals toward a long-term goal, having a strategy in place, and then tracking and making adjustments as needed. I'll go over SMART goals a little bit more and give you an example, but this is what a SMART goal includes. Goals are meant to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. A long-term goal might be decrease body weight, lower cholesterol, stop smoking, run a 5K. We have a couple things here. We have behaviors, a positive behavior that is, or goals that are taking something away, and or a goal can add something in. You want to add a behavior, or you want to alter a current behavior that you have. So you got two directions that you can go. Short-term goals are the steps that you use to make that long-term goal, maybe it's 6 months from now, reality, selecting one element at a time. So the main point of this chapter is to identify that barriers are in place. If it was easy to change, we all would be not needing to think about making change, but we're all in a process of our wellness, and we all have different paths that we're following, and it's individualized. Knowing that barriers are going to come, we're going to plan for them. I want you to believe that you have, or to consider what your level of self-esteem is, and to move away from a fixed mindset and know that there are skills and behaviors and processes that allow for growth and improvement, that you just might not be aware of them. And to recognize where you are in your stage of change and make your plan. Identify who's going to be supportive for you, and to recognize that you have the ability to be a good influence to others and to also help others make positive changes in their lives.